Johnny!
I'll be back.
And you will know my name is the Lord! I'm walking here!
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Groovy.
An old-timey whistle should go off. Just children covered in soot come out of a workhouse. We're burning a pod!
Shift change.
Why is the podcast work on child slave labor?
There's just a smokestack coming out of Cody's apartment.
There's just at the bottom of every industry is just child labor. It's hard to cover.
We're keeping that as the intro, right, Mike?
Oh, please don't.
Oh, yes. Child labor should start every episode.
For goodness sake. There's context. Hey.
Unfortunately, no. That all got deleted. We never got that part.
All right.
I'll do a clean open in case we don't want to mention child slave labor to begin things. Which I think is a popular option, but I'll leave that there.
I'm going to get canceled before my book comes out.
The worst time. Normally it's better afterwards so you can get the initial sales.
Let people buy the book first and then cancel me. I already have, the money. What a horrible thing to say. Jesus Christ, shut up, Ariel.
Right, you're just building it up for that comeback tour in 2 years.
Yep. My Netflix special.
I wrote the book on it, followed by the sequel. I'm sorry I wrote the book on it.
Some things have come to my attention.
Addendum to the book on it.
You could crank those out forever. What a great system. Okay. I swear to God, we're going to do a clean open now. Got to get the giggles out, though. Welcome to Box Office Pulp, your one-stop podcast for movies, madness, moxie, and tonight, the combo of Murderous Clowns and Millennial Nasties. I'm your host, Cody. Joining me tonight are my co-hosts, Mike and Jamie. But forget about us. We have with us our own special co-host, Ariel Powers-Schaub, who has her book, Millennial Nasties. Holy shit, it's really cool when you get to say, you have an actual professional on the show instead of us. So, what a treat. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh my gosh, thanks for having me.
So I want to start discussing the book, and then so everyone at home understands, we're going to do a bit of a shift halfway through-ish and jump into the Terrifier series of movies. But book first, the important stuff first. You gotta get through that. Millennial Nasties. Basically, well, I don't know if you can spoil academic work. It's not like there's a twist ending at the end here. But
9/11 happened.
Oh no. I should have said "oh no" with more passion, actually.
Oh no, plane, stop.
No, I sound like a plant. But the big gist behind Millennial Nasties to me was that idea of trying to reclaim the phrase torture porn.
Yes.
On our podcast, we just finished rewatching and commenting on all the Saw films. And
I know you did.
Oh no, I've been perceived.
Yeah, I know you guys did, and you didn't even let me know. So
that was my fault. It was suggested a bunch of times.
My feelings aren't hurt.
Talked about it every single movie.
We saw your comments for other Saws, and we're like, oh no, I don't want to be the mistress. I don't want to get in the way. But
no, it was great.
We'll bring you in for an escape room commentary.
There you go. I'd do
it. Escape rooms, are they? No, not Millennial Nasties, not quite. But there's just so much negative stigma. I think we've said it a bunch of times. Now it's great to have an actual book saying, you dummies, there's a better term for it. I can't think of a better name than Millennial Nasties for the movies of the 2000s. I've noticed that in a couple interviews too, people brought that up. And it's like, damn, if only you could pull a J. Jonah Jameson copyright and get a nickel every time someone says it.
Oh, man. I would just say it a bunch. Can I somehow make my own nickels multiply if I just repeat it a bunch?
It can't hurt.
Yeah, I was pulling very hard for the term American extremity during those Saw commentaries. And the second I heard the term millennial nasty, I was like, well, that just sounds like a term that already exists.
Oh, thank you. That's really kind. That's when I thought of it, that's kind of how it felt. It felt like discovering something rather than coming up with something, if I can just be so bold.
Well, it's great because it's got the obvious tie back to the video nasties, but then, right, all the stuff for the 2000s was inspired, but in a very different direction.
Yeah.
So nice little bow on all that. It just works so well. Plus, it sounds fun.
Thank you.
Slight sidebar here. I had to explain to a friend what the video nasties were the other day when I was talking to him about this book, and I was just blown away that there are normal people that don't know about British censors.
Like normies, particularly in the United States, they don't know at all about the video nasties. And that's okay, because then it's fun. You can tell them.
Yeah. My favorite part, though, was he thought I was fucking with him. Because, like, wait,
Really?
they named it Video Nasties? That was...
It is a little bit like, yeah, you're like, not nasty videos? Like...
It sounds like you're making
weird.
fun of British people whenever you say it.
Yes, it does. And it's honestly like the best branding Video Nasties could have asked for.
Right?
The BBFC was essentially giving us a list.
That's the fun part about it, too, because I love a list. Just knowing there's like X number of movies out there that got slapped with the title and banned makes me want to just check them out one by one.
Absolutely.
Have you gone through all the Millennial Nasties? Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank God this isn't live. Have you gone through all the Video Nasties?
No, I haven't. Mostly out of laziness. I do remember, like, when I learned the term Video Nasties, I had already seen a lot of them. And so I kind of felt, like, vindicated in that. And then I started seeking some out. But then it started to feel like homework. And when movies start to feel like homework, I kind of get put off. So maybe one day I will, but I haven't.
I always have to worry about that too. Like, I haven't dived into Letterboxd too hard because then it feels like it's like you said, homework. Like it's a chore instead of just the fun of watching a movie.
Oh yeah, I obsessively log on Letterboxd. If I forget, I will go back. Like I'll wake up in like a cold sweat and be like, I didn't log a movie 3 days ago.
That's why I had to delete it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Small jump here, but I just wanted to mention too. So the book is coming out through Encyclopocalypse
Yes.
Publications, right?
Yes.
How did you end up working through them? Because they have so much cool shit coming out. I have a stack of their stuff, and someone needs to take my credit card.
I mean, I'll take that off your hands. I don't think that's what you meant.
If it stops me from spending my money, then I don't feel guilty, even if I am poor. So it kind of works for everyone.
Win. Encyclopocalypse, yes. They're incredible. I'm so lucky to get to work with them, truly. I first learned about them because my friend Janine Pipe wrote Sausages, The Making of Dog Soldiers.
Yep.
And Encyclopocalypse put that out. And so I was talking to Janine about her experience, and it was positive. And so when I knew I wanted to pitch my book to a publisher and go that route rather than self-publishing if I was able to, because I really wanted the support. But there aren't a lot of publishers who are willing to publish nonfiction about horror films. Like, there are a lot of horror publishers, but they publish fiction, or like nonfiction publishers, but they don't give a crap about horror movies. So you really have to be thoughtful about who you're pitching to. And Encyclopocalypse seemed perfect. And I'm just like so grateful they said yes to me, and everything has worked out so well. It's like a dream.
I would love it so much if they really embraced this and we got more kind of academic writing or, nonfiction writing. They have a great set of things already. Like on my desk right now, I have the original screenplay for Hellraiser Bloodline that they put out. Phantom Limbs, which came out not too long ago.
Is awesome.
God, I have a novelization for the movie Manborg through them. It's wonderful the things they've come up with. And I love that it's a little bit of everything.
I think their best-selling book is a novelization of Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. I think that's their best-selling book. But yeah, like I think that's how they got their start, was novelizations. But they have branched out to embrace other kinds of writing about horror films. And I've just been so lucky to work with them because, like, I can write, sure, I can do that, but I don't know anything about like copyright or cover art or editing or marketing. And so, like, thankfully they know how to do all that stuff. So it's really I've been so fortunate.
Well, I imagine there's a risk too if you go the self-published route. Does it ever get like a physical release, or is it just like an ebook somewhere? This way, you actually hold the real thing without like having to know what you're doing. You just make sure they get the book out.
Yeah, you absolutely can do physical releases with self-publishing, but then I would have had to figure out how to do all that, and more power to all the self-publishers out there, because that seems like a shitload of work.
Right.
Whereas the person who did the cover art for Millennial Nasties, Dark Poppy, like, her work is just incredible. And like, they asked me, what do you want for your cover art? And I was like, I don't know, because I'm not a visual person at all. Like, negative visual ability. And they came back with what ended up being the cover art. And I was just like, this is exactly what I wanted, but I didn't know it. And I think that is a true artist. So Grim Puppy Designs on Instagram, like, she's incredible.
That's so cool. I've always wondered that, like, they bothered to ask the author, like, hey, what are you feeling for the vibes on this cover? Or if the marketing department just grabs it and like, don't worry, we'll get you covered.
Well, at Encyclopocalypse, I have felt like every decision has been mine to make, but they've been there to support me. It's honestly just been like the best possible of both worlds. I feel like I'm going to sound like a broken record just with all my positivity, but really I just have been so lucky.
That's fantastic to hear. I'm glad because I own so much of their stuff that they're not assholes, because I've been like, oh, now I got to burn books. I don't want to do that.
No, they're legit. You can like them.
I was curious about the process of selecting like which films you wanted to like specifically cover.
Yeah.
And did you start with the diagram in the back of like the 6 degrees of Saw and then kind of reverse engineer those into chapters? Or I'm just imagining like Always Sunny Charlie just in a room, just like tacking everything together.
Oh my God. Okay. First of all, that Charlie in It's Always Sunny literally was me making this chart. I have it's folded up now, but I had several pieces of paper on the wall in my basement where I do my writing, where I was making the chart with like pen and paper. And my mother-in-law came over one day to like help us with the project. And she was so sweet. She was just like, what is this? And I was like, oh, this is my mental breakdown in real time. So I really did look like that. But no, I did not. And okay, also sidebar. I loved both of those questions because a lot of people who have read the book have not brought up the chart. And I was like so proud of it that I was like, oh shit, is this not as cool as I thought it was? Like, do people not like it? So thank you for bringing it up.
I can only hope the physical edition, it's like a big fold out map. Like when you're looking at the Lord of the Rings, like Tolkien needs to show you all of Middle Earth.
It's such a treat at the end of the book.
But it does look good. It does look really good. And Mike, I appreciated the way you asked that question by saying, how did I choose the books? That is so much better to hear than you forgot this movie.
That's actually why we brought you on here, just to berate you for a half hour
thanks,
like a bunch of jerks.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna go. Well, no, because anytime you make a list or you curate a selection, someone in the comments goes, "You forgot this," and it's like, yes, I forgot. Well, I spent a year of my life writing. I forgot that this movie exists. So now that I've like done this huge preamble to answer your question, when I started thinking about writing a book, originally it was just going to be a book about the Saw franchise. But I realized as I was sort of like coming up with what to write that I had so much more to say. And there were so many movies that connected to the Saw franchise that I also wanted to talk about. So I started to make a list of what all those were. And just kind of like a lot of the early stages of writing a book was just watching these movies over and over again, which is not a bad thing. But it was like, I'm writing, but I'm watching a movie. And I did kind of start with a general list of this is what I know for sure. And then there were some movies that got added and some that got taken off. And I sort of narrowed it down by, did I have enough movies for each point I wanted to explore without filling the book up with too much and repeating myself a lot? So like there are definitely other movies I could have included that helped me make the same points, but I didn't just want to be like, and another thing, and another thing, and another thing. So if I felt that 2 movies were sufficient to make a point or 3, then I would just stick to that. And I wanted it to just be like a really tight representation of Millennial Nasties. So I cover 40 movies in total.
See, the thing that impressed me was when I was going through the list, I stumbled on the section with Final Destination. And at first thought for me, I'm like, oh.
Why is this in here?
Why is this in here? Yeah. So it really made me reconsider that movie or that entire franchise. Because I've always kind of thought of it as its own thing, because you don't have too many where there's the invisible hand of death essentially as your bad guy. But, when you get through all the points, you kind of have to go back and go, well, yeah, visually, I guess it's more slick than a lot of the other entries you would refer to here. But it's not a wild thing to say that it belongs lumped in with everything else.
Yeah, thank you. And I know some people might disagree, and that's cool. But one of the reasons I wanted to replace the term torture porn is because I don't think torture porn is representative enough of all of the movies in this decade that need analysis and need attention and deserve attention. And Final Destination does kind of get set, people love it, but it gets set aside as its own thing. Mm-hmm. People don't quite know how to categorize it, how to talk about it. But it's really, you think about teenagers not being able to escape death and the deaths being really quite gruesome, even if we don't see all of it on screen. If you put, a gritty yellow and green filter over that, that is an obvious millennial nasty to me. So I think, what I'm hoping to do is give more movies a home in the subgenre of millennial nasty.
Yeah. I was really glad to see a lot of outliers that I would never have thought of being a part of that subgenre, like May or Repo the Genetic Opera. Movies I really love, but have never been able to quite classify as part of any movement whatsoever.
Yeah.
And particularly Repo, like that was a light bulb moment of, it's not just the Bousman connection. Like they are very much playing with the same type of aesthetics, the same attitudes towards violence, the same cynical tone as a lot of other horror movies at the time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love Repo. I think it's incredible. And that's in the Fucked Up Families chapter, along with May and some other movies. And there are a lot of themes that came out through this decade. Of course, there's always going to be when you get down into it. But, I think especially with Repo, at the heart of that movie is of a father who doesn't know how to protect his daughter, and daughter trying to have a coming of age story, happens to be in a post-apocalyptic world that's addicted to plastic surgery. But, families, you can't really take that out of it. So I was happy to give Repo a home as well.
And as somebody who's read so many awful May takes over the years, it was really a delight to see you do that movie justice.
Thank you so much. That's so kind. Thank you so much. I love May. I wrote a piece on it for Moving Pictures Film Club, kind of about how women sometimes in like the patriarchal gaze are viewed as parts, not the sum of the whole, and that's kind of how May is viewing people in that movie. And so I kind of broke it down to be like, well, May was taught to look at bodies this way and to see people like buckets of chicken rather than humans. So I love May. I love talking about May. Justice for May. Good for you.
You are the only person I have seen acknowledge that Jeremy Sisto is being weirder on that date than she is.
Oh, absolutely true.
Yeah.
That's pissed me off for so long. Whenever I read any review of like, well, obviously once she started biting him, it's like everything up until that point was red flag after red flag.
Yes, he's trying to assert power over her by freaking her out. And when she doesn't get freaked out, he doesn't know what to do. Yeah, no, listen, maybe it's my own personal experience with dudes that let me figure this one out. But like, he shows her, a short film about cannibalism, like couples eating each other on one of their first dates. And he wants to gauge her reaction, but he wants her to be afraid. Yeah, he sucks.
Yeah, spooky edgelord guy intimidation is totally a thing. If it hasn't happened to you, it's happened to a woman in your life, and it's something you
most definitely
have no concept of until it happens, because you think, oh well, the guy in the Evil Dead shirt who wants to show me this weird movie, he's all right, and you don't realize, this is stage one of something.
Yes. And especially growing up as like a spooky chick and being like, ooh, a spooky guy. Like, let me see what he's up to. But then like spooky guy doesn't really actually want to follow through on any of that. He just wants that aesthetic to pull me in. It's like, yeah, man, I'm weirder than you. I like your knife collection. Let's go.
I can say with absolute pride that I still to this day have a VHS that was loaned to me by a spooky guy who would not take no for an answer on me watching a random VHS he had. So fine, it's mine forever.
What is on that VHS, Jamie?
I cannot. It was some random ass 80s movie. I'll have to dig it up sometime.
Yeah, well, good for you for keeping that because, yeah, teach that guy to try to be weird and freak you out.
A small sidebar going back to Repo. Can we have a new term instead of Scream Queen for whatever Bill Moseley does whenever he's in a movie with fucked up families?
Gosh, he's just enchanting, isn't he?
It's always a treat when he pops up.
Yeah, he's just enchanting.
But it's just, it's going to be like the fucked up family special when that guy's in there like, oh, baby, what do you got for me?
Yeah. Oh, my God.
I didn't have anything to attach to that. I just really wanted to mention Bill Moseley because now he's on the brain.
Yeah, why not?
Now I'm thinking of Bill Moseley's cameo in The Blob.
Oh, yeah. He totally spicy was in that.
I
Shawnee
laugh
Smith
every time.
is also in The Blob. And that's why she was in Saw. So there you go.
Another degree of
it
Saw.
all ties
So
back.
this is all you can think. These are the only terms you can think in now. It's just nothing to Saw.
Oh,
Help me. My brain is broken.
6 months from now, we're going to see a picture tweeted from the Lionsgate office, and they're going to have that poster in the background. This is how we invented horror in the 2000s.
If Lionsgate acknowledges my existence, I will melt into a puddle on the floor. They make everything I love, truly.
It's so bad they moved out Saw from September, else you could have forced them to a tie-in.
Yeah, I know. Listen, in the same week we got the news that Saw 11 was moved to next year and that the Blair Witch Project was getting a remake, and it was just an emotional roller coaster of a week for me.
At least with Saw, I'm glad they have more time to cook, because I was getting a little worried on how quickly they were putting that together.
But, and I'm sending all my positive energy. Tobin Bell is not a young man.
Oh, no.
So they're gambling
just do what they
with
did
father
We'll have
time.
Carlos take over.
Yeah, I'm here.
He's a warrior.
I say do what they did.
That was my cue up for you.
You guys, I love Saw X.
I went in pretty nervous, and I came out thinking, wow, okay.
I was excited.
It's top tier. Top tier.
Who would have guessed that going in? There should have been bets going.
So you guys know I also love the Fast and the Furious, and Fast X came out the same year as Saw X, and Fast X should have been called Fasten Your Seatbelts, obviously.
Sure.
They really missed a trick with that. So
they're already going with silly names. They might as well really lean into it.
Come on, Fasten Your Seatbelts? Are you kidding me? You're welcome.
That should have been the tagline. It should have been on the poster.
So to tease me, my husband calls Saw X Saw 10 Your Seatbelts.
I mean, that works if we're going back to 7 with the car trap. I mean,
yeah. R.I.P. Chester.
So if we can jump back a little bit, because you'd mentioned the Blair Witch, and that reminded me of a thought I had. Oh, no. This is my fault. I don't have a set pattern here.
Damn you, Cody.
I know. But, I've always heard, and I do believe that nostalgia operates in a 20 to 30 year loop.
Yeah.
So kind of with that in mind, you get a timeline that decade ends, next maybe 10 years are a hard pivot where you get a cultural swing, kind of embrace the opposite side of the pendulum, and then 10 to 15 years back the other direction to kind of get to that starting point, and you kind of undulate back and forth. So with the end of the 90s, you mentioned a few points in the book, the change in attitudes towards what we got in the 90s. What do you think are the main hallmarks that we were rebelling against in the 90s when we got to things like Saw, when we got to the 2000s? What were we trying to do different that we'd done in the previous decade and people didn't want a part of anymore?
Yeah. So in the 90s, especially in the Western world, especially in the United States, we were really feeling well set. We were kind of feeling like we won the world. Economically, we were doing well. We had good relationships with other countries. And for the most part, and we were really feeling, we were kidding ourselves that we had solved every type of bigotry. We were the melting pot. We were talking about tolerance in schools, all the racism, sexism, homophobia. Homophobia wasn't even acknowledged.
Right.
The types of bigotry that were acknowledged were racism and sexism. And we were we fixed those. And going into the 2000s, things that were happening made us realize that not all of that was true. 9/11's a part of that, but it's not the only thing that was going on. There were lots of cultural forces all over the world that were shaking things up, especially New French Extremity started a little bit earlier than Millennial Nasties from the political unrest in France. And, leading into a new president getting elected in the United States, and then the war on terror and everything that brought to a financial crisis near the end of the 2000s, people in the West were feeling pretty unstable. And so we went from this period in the 90s where we were like happy, glassy, solved everything, living the dream, to suddenly we're at war. We don't feel safe in our homes. We don't feel safe in our country. Other countries don't feel safe. They don't like us. And our money is in danger. Our homes are in danger. Suddenly became very scary. And, it didn't happen overnight, but it is one of those things where, like, if you look back at a 10-year cycle, you can see the difference from the 90s to the 2000s.
Well, and it makes me, because there's always been the kind of prevailing theory, oh, well, things were good in the 90s, and it's hard to make horror to exploit that when everyone's feeling good. I don't know if I'm 100% on board with that, because I think there was a lot of things under the surface that weren't great, but I can definitely see why mass audiences would not be interested in horror in times of plenty. And I feel like you maybe get that kind of swing around with things too, because you go from the Clinton era to the Bush era, and then to the Obama era with the whole emphasis on hope, a new dawn, and all that kind of stuff happening, and then the switch over to the 2016s and onward. And because it does feel like in the last few years we have gotten some bangers for horror movies.
Oh yeah,
which is the one small good thing, I guess, about everything being on fire all the time.
There's your silver lining. Yeah. So I have this theory that James Wan comes along about every 10 to 12 years and tells us what we're going to do for a while. So it starts with Saw.
I would love it if he actually came down from the mountain with like commandments and we just got to go, yes. Those. I
would love it if he would answer my voicemails and acknowledge that he's my boyfriend, but we all want things we can't have. So it started with Saw, and then it was The Conjuring. And then I'm hoping Malignant is a new signpost for us, because throughout the 2010s, we have gotten a lot of bangers, but we've kind of been in this era of, a lot of like really thoughtful horror, some slower, some things showed less on screen, allegories for grief, allegories for mental illness. And I feel like we're just starting to swing away from that. And so like, maybe in 10 years, we'll be able to look back and see, but it feels like audiences are wanting to have a little bit more fun again with their horror. I think maybe the pandemic did that. Like, we were all too sad all the time anyway. So like we had to swing away from that, I think. So I think we're about to enter. I mean, I'm clocking it with Malignant being so fun and silly, and I love it. I'm hoping that's the direction we're going for a while.
Just to go back to your idea of trying to date James Wan, did you like go outside of his house with like a, like instead of a boombox, just like a big Billy puppet, like, hello, notice me, senpai?
Yeah, I mean, I sent him a cassette tape. It said play me. And I don't understand, like, why his security team thinks that's a problem. Like, I am communicating the way he taught me to.
What a jerk.
I know, but he's still my boy.
But to go back to that point of moving away from, for lack of a better term, elevated horror, I think I don't love the term either. I don't like it at all.
I said thoughtful horror.
I know, you were very careful with your words. And I'm just going to bulldoze into this.
All right.
But once you kind of get made fun of in a Scream movie, I think it's time to pack it in. We got to try something a little different, because that's hit like cultural mainstream at that point. Everyone's aware of it. Now it's
talking
like,
about the Babadook?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think she might have even said something like A24 horror, elevated horror in
She does
Scream
say
5.
it's elevated horror. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's such like a common, well-known thing now. You got to swerve a little bit and give us something different.
Yes.
Not that I hate those movies. I just think it's becoming well-worn in a way.
Need some gnarly horror now.
Yes. Give me gore.
Well, I mean, look at it historically. I mean, we all love the new Hollywood horror of the 70s, but there was no world where that could have stayed on forever. Every bubble's going to pop eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And like, that's good and that's okay. And we can do different things. We don't need to do the same thing forever. But, I do think horror trends tend to sort of swing wildly. So we'll see where we go.
Cycles than I always think. I always think like, oh man, the slasher craze lasted forever. Well, the golden era for slashers is what, 78 really to like 83-ish, 84 or somewhere.
Right.
In there.
And I mean, there's definitely some outliers, and there are definitely things that count as slashers outside of that, but
yeah, it never really went away, but it lost its popularity.
Well, the post-Scream slasher boom was like, what, 4 years?
exactly what I was going to move to
Right.
next. Yeah. So I think I mentioned it already a couple times, but the 1990s teen horror cycle gets into this idea like this went pretty fast.
Yes.
There were a lot of them that came out really quick, and they're all kind of similar, and I love them all so much. But it was not a long trend. That was maybe like Scream was what, end of 96, and boy, we already had Scream 3 by like 2000. It felt like things were kind of winding down. It was only like maybe 4 or 5 years for that whole trend to really exhaust itself.
It was fast. It was bright. Yeah. If you like Alex West's book, the 1990s teen horror cycle, she also has a book on New French extremity that I highly recommend.
Ah, nice.
Yes. Especially because I don't talk about New French extremity, Millennial Nasties. I focus on English language horror. I cannot recommend highly enough if you are craving New French extremity content. Alex West is the expert.
So what I wanted to get into, kind of talking about changing trends. I'm surprised you went with Malignant, because I was thinking just recently that Terrifier 2 was a surprise kind of box office smash. That was one of those films that doesn't seem like the mainstream would know or talk about it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
People found out about that movie.
Normies were all over it.
Right. And when that happens, you got to think that everyone who's making low budget movies is going to pivot hard towards something like that.
Yeah. Well, to stick with my James Wan theory, it has to be Malignant. Come on.
I mean, I love Malignant too. So I wouldn't be opposed if we got more dead silence in the world or anything.
Oh my God, I love dead silence. This is an audio medium, but I have a dead silence poster behind me on the wall. Anyway, sorry. I feel like I interrupted a question.
Oh, no. I was very unsubtly trying to direct us towards Terrifier Talk. my new radio show every Saturday morning. No.
Terrifier Talk.
Terrifier Talk in the morning with Ted.
Call in. What do you think? You could have like a soundboard with like "awooga" and all the shock jock sounds.
All the classic clown horn honking kind of noises.
Yeah.
Hey, Ariel, you been terrified lately?
A lady never tells awooga.
Why are we doing this show? Why am I recording this
6
podcast?
hours of that every morning.
We have to arrive at the studio at 2:30 in the morning.
Oh, God. You have to do so many promotional events outside your normal hours. Yeah.
But the idea I was trying to broach was there's so much popularity in something like Terrifier 2.
Yes.
And it's not quite a return to classic slashers because there's a level of kind of cruelty in art that you would maybe only see in Freddy. And he even got turned to more of a jokester as the movies went on.
Yeah.
Like, the Terrifier series is one of the few out there where if I'm like in the middle of a meal and I see a scene from it, I'm like, I'm not actually going to finish this bowl of lasagna. I'm gonna wait.
Can't imagine why.
But despite all that cruelty, it would still kind of be classified as fun horror. Like, it's not striking the somber, kind of tones of a lot of the other really very, very serious straight-faced horror. It's not like Babadook, if I can go back to that.
Right. Well, okay, so something I've been thinking about a lot lately, because I'm getting ready to write a piece. So the reactions to Terrifier and the reactions to Terrifier 2, I saw really different reactions to them online. And I did not see as many people talking about Terrifier as fun as I do the second one. And I do think they're two really different movies, but I think the conversations around those two movies are really fascinating by different, like, who's involved in those conversations and what are they saying and who's listening. And it makes me super stoked for the third one because I'm like, what is this going to end up being? And if you just look at the first movie on its own, it's a really different thing you think the filmmakers were thinking about than when you look at the two of them together. Like, I think this is such a rich franchise already with only two movies. And there's, oh God, I don't even know where to begin. There's so much.
I kind of think it almost is like the filming style, because the first Terrifier is much kind of a grittier feel to it visually. And I think that cues people into thinking of it in those terms. Like you almost think of it more like a Grindhouse kind of movie. Or
it's very grungy and kind of mean-spirited. And the interesting thing about Terrifier 2 is it still has a lot of like that spirit, but it has the aesthetic of a splatterpunk.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't have the like it doesn't have the like cartoonish joy of a splatterpunk, but it has the look and feel of it.
Yes.
Yeah, there's and Terrifier 2 obviously is the one that perfects this to a style, but I felt like all of Damien Leone's films, even All Hallows Eve, they have this very intentional artifice to them that gives them this very dreamlike quality. Like there's a very, particularly Terrifier 2 feels like the dream of a movie you once saw that your brain is making worse in retrospect. Yeah. Like the thing
I know exactly what you mean.
The thing I kept thinking rewatching it for this episode was, this is the movie that was in my head when I was a kid, and other kids at school would tell me what goes on in Friday the 13th movies, but make everything up. Like all those stories of, and then Jason...
Were you spreading Friday the 13th lies back in the day on the playground?
No, I was the victim of those. Like,
okay.
Kids would say, like, oh, and then Jason rips this guy's skin off, and then he cuts off the guy's hands and shoves them down his... all this bonker stuff you wouldn't put in a movie now. Like, and that's how so many of those movies were talked about back in the day. Like, Terrifier as a franchise feels like Leone saying, okay, what if I took that dream horror movie that's never actually been made, that only exists half remembered in your imagination? What if I made that real?
Yeah. I think, so something I've been thinking about the first movie versus the second movie. And okay, full disclosure, when I first watched Terrifier, when it first came out, I didn't like it very much, and I couldn't put my finger on why. And I didn't spend too much time thinking about it. I just sort of was like, I didn't love that. And I kind of moved on. I was like, great practical effects, but And then Terrifier 2, I started watching on loop. Like, I can't count how many times I've just had this movie on in the background. And I was like, why is my reaction to these two movies so different? One of the things I think about the first movie is you start out thinking it's going to be a typical slasher formula. Because, like, you're focusing on, I mean, it starts out with the interview, but like then you're introduced to Dawn and Tara, and you think, okay, like Tara's obviously our final girl, Dawn's obviously going to die, but like I know this narrative, this girl's going to get away and she's going to be a badass. And then that doesn't happen, and you realize slowly that the movie's about art, and it always has been. And if you go in thinking you're going to watch a slasher about a final girl, and you come out of it realizing you watched a movie about art, it can make you feel weird. But the second movie absolutely is about Sienna. And it's about art too, but it's more about Sienna. And it sticks more to that formula while still subverting some things. And so I think that's one of the reasons why the reactions were so different.
Particularly when in Terrifier 1, Art pulls a gun out and just marks somebody.
Yes.
Like
that's the moment for me.
Yes.
A, when I fell in love, but B, when I went, okay, this is not what I thought it was when I was going in. This is actually doing something different now. And that's when I start paying closer attention.
Yeah, Terrifier 1 is almost a prank on the audience. Like, oh, yes. You thought you were going to a slasher movie, didn't you?
Yes. That is exactly right, Jamie. I mean, I agree with you. I don't get to... Sorry, that sounded weird, me saying it was right. I just mean I agree with you.
Now.
I got a gold star.
Book, raise your hand.
No, I don't. Listen, I don't know what I'm talking about.
The guest never agrees with me. This is awesome.
Jamie finally gets her validation. She ascends to heaven. It's a good ending.
Uh-oh, I ended the podcast by accident. It's
like the Santa Claus. Unfortunately, you just have to take the role.
Now I become Jamie somehow?
Live my debt.
Okay.
No one realizes Jamie's sitting at her house right now wearing a Santa suit, so it's exactly like the Santa Claus.
Why is the second podcast in a row we've talked about the Santa Claus?
Because it's such a weird concept. I can't get it in my head.
Well, you see, Cody, if you access the escape clause.
A little bit awkward because I'm also wearing a Santa suit, and now one of us has to change.
This is where the murder comes in.
Shoot.
I want to mention, though, I absolutely love how much of a horror nerd thing that is to be like, I didn't like the first one, and then I put the second one on loop.
Yes.
Because we've all been there. We were just talking about The Strangers, and like, this will probably be bad. I guess I'm only going to have to watch all three of them in theaters and then buy the DVDs.
Pumpkinhead 3 is really where they pull the franchise together.
It's a part of the ritual, right? It's just a part of the ritual.
Hope springs eternal. I'm always in the back of my head like, Wishmaster 9 is where I'm really going to find
where it's gonna
my
really
love.
all the questions are gonna be answered.
Yeah.
What point was I gonna make? It was a good one. I don't remember.
No, we lost track.
Art wears a Santa suit in the third one, so it kind of relates to the Santa Claus.
It's true. And as long as we're bringing up the third one, did you see the news that Savini's going to make a little appearance in the third?
I did see the news, and
it's like Christmas now.
Yeah, I cannot wait. So we were talking about Art using guns, and I want to go back to that because I think that's extremely important. Never have we seen... So Art's an iconic slasher villain, right? He's got the look, he's got the whole thing going on. Never have we seen an iconic slasher villain use a gun. I can't think of a single time, and certainly not in the first movie. Like, usually a slasher franchise, you end up loving the iconic villain later. Like, you go to the later Friday the 13th movies for Jason, right? But that's not what you're doing in the first few movies. Jason isn't even in the first one. But the first Terrifier movie tells you this is all about Art, and Art isn't who you think he is. And he's so comfortable using guns because he just wants to achieve his goal. You know, he's not walking after you while you run away and trip. Like, he's just going to shoot you in the head. And I'm just like, how bold to make this movie.
Right? Could you imagine like a Halloween where Michael Myers just pulls out a Glock? Like, it wouldn't work. And even in something like Scream, you know, when Ghostface inevitably pulls the gun out at the end, they're out of costume. So it's almost like a divide between the iconic slasher and the killer underneath. Like, they keep those in different pools.
Yes. It's like humans can use guns, but not our supernatural slasher icons. And Art is supernatural. That's very clear from the first movie. That's not a thing they added in the second movie. That's clear from the first movie. Everybody. And we're not used to like, Freddy would never pull a gun. That would be wild.
Well, and just to go off the supernatural thing too, most of the slashers to prolong the franchise end up becoming explicitly supernatural. Jason, you can maybe argue for the first few entries was human, but they have to take their time to turn into that. It's
by the seventh one, you're like, he lives underwater now? Like, what? Like aquatic Jason?
And then he's a little kid again.
Yeah.
Jason is more machine than man now.
Yeah, and then he's an astronaut. So
it's almost like you're bringing the energy of like a later slasher entry
you really
to the
are.
very first one, where all of a sudden Art's like, no, he's always been this way. You can't stop Art.
But then you also give him a gun, which also doesn't... Like, it's like, I could
a lot of directions for one guy.
Yeah, like a slasher franchise where you're like, you're gonna love the killer right away. Okay, cool, got it. Hatchet, did it. Victor Crowley, love him. But like, then giving Art a gun subverts so much of what you think that iconic villain should be. And it's like, he'll just straight up kill people. The other thing we don't know yet about Art, there are lots of theories. We don't yet know what his deal is, what his motivation is.
Yeah.
And usually we get some sort of, at the end of a slasher movie, you get the exposition dump about, you know, oh, his name was Jason and it's his birthday, right? And so we haven't gotten that yet about Art. And maybe we never will. And like, that would also be interesting. But I'm just like, what is this slasher franchise? And is it even legal to make a movie that's so different? I love it.
I always compare it to Lovecraft with the mythology they've set up. There's not just like normal slasher movie supernatural shit going on. There's something grander.
Yeah.
Like, there's a larger stage at play that we're seeing, and Art is at the center of it. And something almost like older than time, like a form of evil, which the little girl represents.
Yes.
That is pushing Art along, and then Sienna being set up as the avatar of all that is good to defeat Art. And it's a lot of thought that's going into a movie about a killer clown, which I love so much.
Yes.
I think anybody watching the first Terrifier was thinking, man, the follow-up is going to be filled with lots of loaded mythological symbolism.
No, and that's what's so bold. And that's why some people who love the first one were super mad about the second one. And some people who didn't like the first one were sucked in by the second one. Mike, you're the super fan, right? With me on this?
Yes.
I would love to hear your theories.
Oh, God.
Oh no! Oh
That's
no!
what, I'm sorry.
And
I
the
don't
iron
mean to-
bars come down to all of our houses, and we're trapped in here in the
No. Listen,
in the
I mean,
box.
I'm Jigsaw in this scenario, and you can't escape until you tell me your art theories. No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to like try to facilitate your podcast. I've just
No. I'm saying don't get Mike started. We'll be here forever.
That's why I came on the show.
Please aim a mic like a gun.
Let me open the poetic edda. I'd be the solid victim that's way too into it.
I'm with you, buddy. I'd be like, hold on, let me figure this out.
Mike's already sawing off his fingers in like the deli grinder, and Jigsaw's like, "Wait, I didn't explain. You got it." Oh man.
He's like, no, I figured it out. 10 pints of blood. I can do this. Let's go. Burning daylight.
Got places to be.
I'm fascinated by some of the stuff Leon has said about that kind of went against what I was perceiving to be like some of the mythology, like Sienna's like overall role, like the sword not starting out as a supernatural item.
Right. But when it gets that little like line of electricity or whatever it is through it becoming that.
Yeah, the idea that like the sword is baptized in fire
Yes.
and becomes like the spear of Longinus or something.
Mm-hmm.
Or even like the clown cafe fascinated me. Like what, and Leon saying it acts as a way station,
Yes.
essentially. Like it is a place that exists somewhere, like in space and time, and Sienna goes there for the purpose of a test.
Yeah, she's being tested to see if she can stand up to art. This whole thing, I don't know if you all are Stephen King fans, but this reminds me so
Absolutely.
much of The Dark Tower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, are we in King's Dominion right now? Like,
Well, we do
do
have
all
the scary
things serve to
clown.
be? We do.
One thing that struck me, I was just listening to the commentary for 2 right before we started to record, and Leone mentions a comparison in his methodology to David Lynch in Twin Peaks. Now, he was saying, like, we shouldn't give the audience all the answers. That's the allure. You want people to try and figure things out themselves or make up their own mythology or beliefs. I think it's actually a lot closer to Twin Peaks, though, in actual mythology. Because the Red Room, the area of, like, you have to have an area where you test your courage or it would be totally annihilated. You could kind of view askew that to, if your courage is not good enough, you will not be able to face art. You won't have this challenge. The kind of an interdimensional room that's proving grounds. It's for me, if I squint enough, I can see a lot of overlap between the cosmology of Twin Peaks and the series. A thing I didn't think I would ever say until I watched the commentary.
Yeah.
I think what really interests me is the way in which art isn't this like central mythological evil character, but has been created to be one, and seems to be in and out of not quite knowing why he's supposed to be doing things. He wants to kill people, but he's also like doesn't. It's like when he kills Sienna, he kind of goes. He has that reaction of, "Oh, I guess that was it."
Yeah. Oh, what now?
Yeah. He takes it as like he's been told in some way that this is going to be a bigger deal than it actually was.
Who is pulling his strings? Like, and what's the deal with the little girl? Also, she scares the shit out of me.
I'm wondering, because so many slashers are like, Michael Myers only comes out on Halloween. And you wonder, well, what does he do for Thanksgiving? And we're kind of getting an answer here for something like Art, because they set the first 2 movies up where he only appears on Halloween. And now we've got a Christmas entry coming up.
Yeah.
So that's interesting to me that they're going to say, no, this guy can operate whenever. But why? Is he just murdering 24/7?
Right. That's what I mean by, like, we don't know what his deal is.
At this point, we don't even know if the fact that he takes so much extra pride in being gruesome towards his female victims means anything or not.
Right.
Because
So
going to the first
another-
movie, it's one thing. It's like, okay, well, that could just be incidental. In Terrifier 2, it feels like it's going somewhere with that.
Yes. I remember one of the criticisms I heard a lot of the first one, and one that I kind of felt was like, I came away feeling like that movie was a little bit misogynistic, and truly I couldn't put my finger on why. Like, I don't think I could have defended that point, and I didn't think that hard about it. And when you look back on, like, most slashers, a lot of them are about killing women and girls. So I was kind of like, why do I feel differently about this one than I do the other one? And he does kill men in the first movie, but it's more like because they're in his way.
Incidental.
Yeah. And then in the second movie, I think it's about torturing Sienna. But yeah, does their gender matter to art? And if it does or doesn't, why?
But also the Valkyrie imagery is so loaded.
Yes.
Mhm.
Because the movie seems to be
Yes.
taking a point in showing like there's a balancing of scales going on. So art is, and maybe it's not necessarily a point for plot purposes or anything and just like overall allegory stuff that's going on, but art being specifically vicious towards women, and then Sienna with the Valkyrie imagery and being
Mhm.
the other part of that scale, trying to balance it back out.
Yeah.
That seems very purposeful.
Yes. I also think it matters. Like, I want to know more about Sienna's dad and what role he plays.
Yes.
Because he created Sienna's character. And they find that sketchbook of his where he has art and all, art's victims from the first movie. And so I'm like, what is going on with this dad? And what does he have to do with, like, he obviously created this Valkyrie that Sienna's going to be, but like, what did he know?
That has to be Savini, right? I'm convinced it's going to
Oh,
be
is
Savini.
the dad? Oh.
I didn't think of that.
Makes too much sense.
I just did the biggest inhale of my life. Oh, it's gotta be. It's gotta be. It's gotta be. Oh my God.
Let Box
cannot
Office Pulp
frickin'
be
wait.
right about a movie for once.
We'll just declare an exclusive. We'll just pretend.
Yeah, you heard it here first, folks.
Do we make it up? Maybe.
Yeah,
Doesn't
but
matter.
you don't know.
Yeah.
Not to your knowledge.
That's beyond the trailers, this shit.
I also feel a real personal connection to Terrifier too, because my dad passed away when I was 16, and like my mom was also like a hardworking widow trying to take care of me and my brother, and we were just little shits. And like at the time when you're a little shit, you don't realize it, but then as an adult,
yeah.
you're like, oh God, I could have made her life easier. And I was always sneaking out drinking and doing dumb things, and she was always telling me to put clothes on. And so like when I watch Terrifier 2, I think a lot about like my mom and how hard I made her life. And I don't know, it just gives like another extra layer of texture to that film of like, the characters in the film are so easy to connect with personally, at least for me.
Well, there's that extra layer of tragedy too, because we get to see, their last words to a lot of family members as they all go separate ways.
Yes.
Just, put a little more salt on the wound, I suppose.
Yeah, especially for Allie, right?
Ew.
Mm.
What do we think the importance of the art's cannibalism is in all of this? Because it seems like his big finisher move is, I'm going to start biting this person while they're alive. Like he's saving that for something special.
Well, okay, if we're going to go the Stephen King route, Stephen King has often posited that the worst thing, like when a child imagines the monster, the worst thing they can imagine is that monster eating you. Like that is the logical conclusion to a monster, is they eat you.
Yeah.
And so it could be that Art sees that as his last final move to torture you and make you feel horrified. Maybe he's just a foodie and he really likes long pig. I don't know.
I mean, he does bring out the mashed potatoes in the dinner scene for two. So
God, I love mashed potatoes.
Well, I tend to think of movies using cannibalism as almost always just like all-consuming love. It's
right.
that idea.
It's often
you love something so much you will eat it.
Yeah. Yes.
Which doesn't seem to be the fit here at all.
No, it could be a life force thing, but I don't think it is.
I have a theory on like the way Art kills, and this is totally me overthinking the thought that probably went into the design of any of these kills, but
I'm here for this.
the thing that I absolutely love about both films, but specifically I think they hone this in Terrifier 2, is Art's kills are truly what would happen if a clown killed you. They're all
yes.
They're all the wind up and telling of a joke, but through murder, where they just kind of like keep going and are told in threes, and there's always like an extra punchline, and then there's a punchline after that. It's all designed as if a clown act.
I think you're absolutely right.
I was thrown for a second, Mike, because I'm like, if a clown kills you, we've already seen this. It's killer clowns from outer space. They would kill you with a giant pie that melts your face. But I see your point.
Those were technically aliens, but
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen the movie Bloodfest. Not Blood Feast. Bloodfest.
I was about to say, wait, Blood Feast.
No.
Which one have I seen?
So Bloodfest. So okay, I prefer Hellfest, but Bloodfest is a similar movie that I think came out like a year before, about like, oh, some kids go to a haunted attraction and they're really killing people. Like you could put that with like Haunt and The House is October Belt, right? It's like a similar thing. But in Bloodfest, there's a line because they're trying to figure out the rules of each zone. Like, oh, zombies do these things and vampires do these things. They end up in like the clown zone. And the horror buff says, somebody asks him like, oh, what are the rules for clowns? And he's like, clowns don't have any rules. They will cut off your head and shit down your throat and laugh about it. And like, I don't think Bloodfest is that good of a movie. I think Hellfest is way better. But that line has always stuck with me because it's so true. Killer clowns do not have any rules. And I don't know why I said that like Christopher Walken. I don't know what happened to my voice just there.
It was a very dramatic movie moment.
My
that just
ass
happened.
for 10 years.
Then the power goes out.
Turn into Christopher Walken. No, but I think you're absolutely right, Mike. They're making a joke out of the whole thing.
That gets to why Art the Clown is maybe the only movie slasher in, I don't know, maybe 20 years that I think actually qualifies as being scary. Like, viscerally terrifying.
Yeah.
Is the added detail of not only will Art kill you, Art will humiliate you in the most torturous manner possible that no human being deserves. And that's the threat of that hanging in every scene that Art is in makes the entire movie so tense. It's been so long since we've had a character that inspired that in people.
And sometimes Art is acting for an audience that's not there. It's like he's imagining an audience or it's just us and we're implicated. Like in the first movie, when he, there's the woman who lives in the abandoned building and he cuts off her breasts and wears them. For a while, he's just dancing around with her breasts on for himself. But it looks like he's putting on a little show for someone, and that someone is just us. And so I also love thinking about, because I do love some more extreme cinema, I like to think about how is the audience implicated and where are our lines and why are we seeking the entertainment that we're seeking. And so I love thinking about if Art is doing that for us, what does that say about us?
And it makes that horrible feedback loop where, okay, well, if this movie where Art does an awful thing is a huge financial success and it gets a sequel, they have to one-up that thing. So we are really encouraging him to just do more and more heinous shit every film.
And I will be there on opening night with my commemorative popcorn bucket or whatever they do.
Oh, God, an Art popcorn bucket?
I
wouldn't even want to reach into that.
Head.
They fill with like severed, broken glass and razor blades.
It's just flesh in a hole.
I just wanted it to be the trash bag.
Just
give you a trash bag full of popcorn.
At the gas station by my house growing up, you could get a trash bag full of popcorn for like $1. Those were the days.
My sister worked. My sister worked at a movie theater, so she would always get like the leftover popcorn. So at the end of the night, they would just come home with a huge garbage bag stuffed with popcorn, and drove her mad. She couldn't stand the smell of popcorn after a while. She'd bring it home because we'd ask for it, and she hated it so much.
Oh man, I can't imagine hating popcorn. Although when I worked at an amusement park, I was right next to a pizza stand forever, and it made me hate the smell of pizza for like a summer. So I get it.
Yep. One year, my parents hid her Easter basket inside of the popcorn bag, and
oh god,
she was so distraught. She finally found her Easter present. She's like, "Oh, my candy smells like popcorn." And it was,
that's pretty.
All day
funny.
was ruined. It was a rough one.
So cruel.
But to go to the idea of Mike, you mentioned of Art's kills kind of forming to the methodology of a clown. Maybe that gives some light on why I think of Terrifier 2 as a more fun slasher, even though I also view it as a very kind of grim and cruel, mean-spirited one. Because if he's basically playing along to a joke that's solely for the benefit of a meta-narrative, like the audience gets it, but the characters wouldn't, you would kind of apply that as, oh, we're having fun here. We're kind of joking around in the most, brutal way possible. I'm spitballing here because I think of Terrifier 2 as kind of like a fun movie.
It is fun. It is fun.
But I can't quite say why. Because it's not like Dead Alive or something that's clearly like we're having a fun time. This is a horror comedy kind of fun.
I think there's an interesting feedback loop where the absurdity adds to the horror, which adds to the absurdity, which adds to the horror.
Yes. And I think it works in its favor that it's not trying to be a horror comedy. That allows it to be pretty scary and like horrifying at times. And I think so. Some people complained about the length of Terrifier 2, and I get it. But the thing that the length of Terrifier 2 gives you is it gives you some room to breathe. So it's not just 90 minutes of art sawing people in half. Like, you get some family time, you get some friends at the bar, you get some dick jokes. Like, you get some room to breathe in between so that when you get to the next kill, you're like ready to absorb that again. And Art is having so much fun. It's a little bit hard not to have fun with him, even if we're rooting against him.
And then for just to totally derail the conversation, you'd mentioned dick jokes, and it made me think, oh yeah, 2 goes out of its way to kind of do some payback for the first film having a woman sawn from the crotch up by having another man's dick basically torn off and used as like a gag for that.
Yes,
so
we
Art
truly have
gets...
fixed sexism now, guys.
Art did it, buddy.
Damien Leone is bringing cock and ball torture to cinema, one movie at a time.
No, but it was fun, though. It was a good one. Especially because
you don't get as much dick torture in movies, I don't think. I don't think it's quite balanced.
Not as much, yeah. I could make you a list.
I know it's out there. I know it's...
Ghouls Magazine had a really good list about the best severed dicks in horror. So you can look that up if you want to.
That sounds like it would have been fantastic for like a Valentine's Day article.
It might have been.
Nice.
It might have been. But especially since his shirt said just the tip, it was very wonderful that he got it straight in the crotch.
Oh, one of those things that always makes you wince.
Still don't know how I feel about the deleted scene of Art then getting in the car and snorting cocaine.
Yeah.
That was a legit deleted scene?
Oh, yeah.
Huh.
That means that Art can feel the effects of cocaine. That's kind of amazing.
I think that's why it needed to be deleted. The most humanizing scene we get of Art is him washing his costume. And I really like the scene at the laundromat for a lot of reasons, but the idea that Art has the sort of presence of mind to go, okay, I'm done with tonight's killing spree. I gotta wash up so I can do tomorrow's killing spree. I don't know. That's also something we don't see iconic horror villains do. You never see Michael wash his jumpsuit.
Right, yeah. There's the cleanup, the aftercare. And like you mentioned before, it does feel like he's performing for us, too. Like, you know, reading the newspaper and laughing along theatrically to the tragedies listed in it while sitting nude in a laundromat.
He's just as shocked by the little girl as we are. And can I say, when she pees like black liquid, it scares the hell out of me.
It's one of those things that makes me...
just happens.
Yeah.
Just
happens.
Don't
worry about it. It's one of those things that makes me very glad that we have not perfected like scratch and sniff television. Like, we don't need smell-o-vision for these kind of moments.
4D.
Oh no, it's coming right at you.
Going back to like what could bring in the next wave, like Terrifier 2 or Malignant. And speaking of deleted scenes, the original ending, it wasn't shot, was instead of giving birth to Art's head, they pull open the back of her head and Art's face would be there.
Oh, they couldn't have done that after Malignant.
And then Malignant came out, so they had to quickly change it.
I do remember hearing that, yeah. I don't know. I like the giving birth.
The birthing I like, but like it's interesting because one's like a weird body horror. The other is just... There's something so pointlessly gory about he was already a severed head, and then she gives birth to the severed head that he already was. Just like it's like the dream sequence in The Fly or something. Like, it's just weird for the sake of it.
I'm a clown who dreamed about being a man.
Pagliacci?
Honk honk.
You know, the giving birth to his head, it adds to the idea that the sex of his victims matters.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to see where that goes. Like, why is it a little girl who's with him? You know, somebody gave birth to his head. He surrounds himself with women constantly. Like, what's up with that? And why did somebody need to give birth to him again? Like, I don't necessarily need answers to every question to enjoy this franchise. The thing about it is I feel like Damien Leone has these answers, and that is a satisfying feeling.
Yes.
Like, this is all purposeful.
Yeah.
The fact he had like Sienna designed before he ever made the first film, like, endlessly fascinates me. Like, oh, this was all building up towards like a superhero origin story.
Because you would never think it to just watch the first one on its own.
No, yeah. There's not like a mid-credit tease of a villain, a foe for the villain. Yeah, one thing that obviously I haven't seen the third movie yet, so I can't judge, but it almost seems like it'd be a missed opportunity if you're setting the movie on Christmas and you have a virgin villain birth to not make the Christ allegory kind of thing roll into a Christmas movie.
Yeah, that is a good point that I hadn't considered.
Because there's a decent amount of kind of religious allegory into the film. Nothing is, I would say, super direct as like a character being crucified, which
there is a lot.
If you're going to crucify someone, this would be kind of the movie you could get away with it in. But it's there.
Yeah, the clown cafe scene, the choice to have a nun yelling at Sienna about feeding a man. And that actor is the same actor who plays Art the Clown. That's David Howard Thornton, who plays the man who the nun is like, feed this man. She's
okay. I thought he did the voiceover. I didn't know he was actually like cameoing in there as well.
Yes, I believe that's right, Mike?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Because the director was like, I always have him in makeup. It was kind of nice for him to just, do a thing without makeup on for one.
Mike from the future here to say that yes, Ariel and I are both wrong. Please stop yelling at your phone or computer or getting into a car wreck. I don't know where you're listening to this from. I'm not going to pretend that I know that. Yeah, that is not Thornton in the role of the homeless man in the Clown Cafe. That is an actor by the name of Roberto Ham, which is an incredible name, honestly. I do think I know where Ariel and I both got the information from, and we're kind of like half remembering, and it's someone who got confused by the fact that Thornton did the voiceover for the Art cereal commercial. That's where that came from. So you can stop writing your angry letters. I'm admitting it here, there, fact-checking, better than conservative news. Vote blue. I don't know. I'm just here. Back to the episode.
So you've got a nun yelling at Sienna to feed this other embodiment of Art the Clown. Like, feed him how? And why is it a nun? And yeah, I feel like Charlie with the Pepe Sylvia meme.
and Art is also, they seem to have taken great pains to establish that in addition to being this supernatural being, Art is also very explicitly some guy.
Yeah.
That's something that's shocking in the laundry. Yeah, just seeing him strip naked and be a skinny, unimpressive dude who looks cold.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like even if Art was just created to be Art, he is still a person and not just some kind of spirit and idea. And that lends to him a terrifying, tangible quality to him.
Yeah. But also, if it bleeds, we can kill it. That's from Predator. So
In third film, Jesse Ventura takes on Art.
I feel bad because we have a lot of really great, like, in-depth analysis, and one thing I always just have in the back of my head when we have supernatural killers is, oh, this bothers me because there's no way to kill the guy. It ruins the tension, which is just like me being a wet blanket, but I feel that way whenever like a Halloween film goes out of its way to be like, no, Michael is super immortal.
He's evil.
Yeah, all those. I can see why it frighten a lot of people because it's unstoppable evil, but to me it almost needs to be like, if I don't see a clear way to kill this guy, what's the point? This is just like nihilism on film.
Well, Freddy, you just have to ignore, and you're all set.
Ignore. You got to make sure no dogs accidentally desecrate his car grave by pissing on it. Yeah, there's like a weird sect of things that'll keep Freddy away.
Yeah, Freddy, Pennywise, and the Djinn from Wishmaster are the three horror villains you can defeat by just not talking to them.
The classic Simpsons bit, just don't look.
It's always very sad whenever the Djinn gets defeated, though.
Yes.
Go back in that gem and be small again.
I really just never expect people to wax poetic about the Wishmaster series.
Well, maybe you should change your expectations.
I Clearly, I could be wrong. You just don't hear people bring it up that much.
Mike and I
This
talk
is
about
where-
Wishmaster constantly.
This is
I tune
where
you guys
I confess that I've never seen a single Wishmaster movie, and you guys kick me off the show.
I hadn't seen them until fairly recently, only because Jamie and Mike talk about them so much.
Okay.
Someone
well, one
finally
day.
bought the
says,
pack.
man, I wish he would go fuck himself. And then the guy's pelvis twists around, goes up, and he fucks himself. That's a movie. That was put on film. That is beautiful. That's art
That's
right
cinema.
there. That's true art.
Yeah.
The
I'm
Sham
with
Wow runs a
appreciate-
casino.
Do you guys
And
mind
actually,
if we take
he runs the Russian mob in the second movie. Yeah.
Do you mind if we take like a 1 minute break real
Oh,
fast?
yeah, of course.
Okay, I'll be right back in 1 second.
I'm still holding out hope that someday Scream puts out Darkness Falls, and they include like all of the original footage, but that's pipe dream.
Okay, I'm back.
You missed it. We were just evolving into a conversation about Darkness Falls, so it's a good thing we came back now.
Don't let me stop that. I would love to talk about the Tooth Fairy.
Mostly bemoaning, like I would love to see the original version that never really played.
What's
Somewhere out
that?
there. Like they, from my understanding of it, they basically filmed the movie and then decided to replace the Tooth Fairy or change up the Tooth Fairy
Yeah.
pretty much completely from the original
Okay.
design and intention. So I think there's like a different cut of the movie out there, almost an Escape Room 2 kind of situation, I guess.
I am not aware of this. This is exciting news.
Well,
Yeah,
they
they
never put
totally
any of
the
that
thing
stuff out.
remaked it.
Yeah, I think you can find some of the pictures of the makeup online.
Okay.
Yeah, you can.
It was going to be Doug Jones, wasn't it?
Yep. And
What?
it's like has a bit of an animatronic thing going on as well.
That's
Yeah.
a cool design.
What,
pretty-
Yeah.
what a butterfly effect different world that would have been.
Exactly. So I'm always praying that someday Scream will be like, hey, we have found all the missing elements and we're releasing like both cuts of Darkness Falls. It'll
can all
never
hope.
happen. Yeah, but I'd
Don't
like
give up
to dream.
hope.
That,
It's like
that
a-
good
it's like
version
wishing
of
for the
Cursed is
deleted
out
scenes
there.
from Event Horizon. Yeah, that too. Oh, that is out there. They just will never get it. Yeah, the editors basically said, hey, I still have like the reels that have all the original footage. I legally can't do anything with them, but I have that cut of the movie. We can never release it because we'd have to like pay Skeet Ulrich for a film he never starred in.
I like Skeet being the one who's holding it all down.
Not that it's his fault. It's just there's a lot of actors that got cut out of the film. So all of a sudden you'd have to pay residuals to a bunch of new people.
Oops, I accidentally uploaded it to archive.org.
Oops. What are you
So I will never see that scene of Marlon Wayans as Robin.
Always had the comic book. I'm trying to think of a way back in because we stopped on Wishmaster.
I'm so sorry.
No, I like that. I'm including this conversation somehow.
Oh, this whole thing's going in. Okay.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, might as well.
Oh
Fuck.
no! You should have told
It's
me. I would have
less
thought
work
of.
for me,
I would have
technically.
thought of interesting things to say.
Rhode Island, neither a road nor an island. Discuss.
Oh, now we're on it. Well, we have been going for a decent chunk of time here, so it's probably not a bad point to wrap up. But again, I just want to stress on folks one more time here. You can get a copy of Ariel's book through Encyclopocalypse publications. Encyclopocalypse is just like a tongue twister for me. I'm
It
always
is.
terrified I'm going to say it totally wrong.
I've said it wrong a lot of times on a lot of recordings. So, there you go.
Anyways, you guys can go to their website and pre-order. That'll be coming out September 17th. Highly recommended. And while you're in there, just splurge. There's so many cool books they have on their web store. You're going to want them all. Oh, man. They have a pre-order right now for Plan 9 from Outer Space, the novelization. Treat yourself and get both these books. You're going to have a good time.
And if I can just say, physical copies are available outside the US. You just have to scroll down on the pre-order page to the other retailers link, and then there are international shipping options.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah, and it's not immediately obvious when you look at the page, so I've gotten a few questions about it, so I've started just saying that up front.
Hell yeah. I always assume like the poor folks over in the UK just have to deal with like digital copies.
Heck no, I love my UK friends, and I want them to have this on their shelves if they want it.
Nice. So besides the book, what would be a good way for people to find more of your writing?
Yeah, so you can find me on all the socials at Ari_Hellraiser. At the time of recording, I just this week joined the Sinister Scoop. So you can go to thesinisterscoop.com. It is a site that lifts up independent horror, especially books. And I'll be their sinistrative assistant. So you can check them out. But all my writing, all my podcasting, links to pre-order my book. If you follow me at Ari_Hellraiser, you'll find all that.
Very cool. I was so impressed. I saw like you actually have like the link me like with everything listed out. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that's so smooth and professional.
Thank you. I don't know. It there it is. Yeah, you can look at my link tree and see all my stuff.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh my gosh.
We're going to have to continue this when we figure out what the hell is happening in Terrifier 3 with Savini.
Please.
We'll just have a Savini watch, like he's a tornado coming through town. Is he a dad? What is he?
Yes. We can all go to the basement and wait for Savini to...
The Passover.
Yes.
Savini Watch 2024.
Look, the joke is in the Midwest, when the tornado sirens go off, all the Midwest dads just go in the front yard with a beer and watch.
Yeah, that's the siren to go out and look.
Yeah, if it were Tom Savini, I would have no problems with this. I would crack a beer and I'd go out and wait for Savini to fly over in the sky.
I mean, I do that every day anyway. It just doesn't usually work out.
It's our version of the Great Pumpkin.
Yeah.
Man, why didn't Savini show up tonight?
Yeah, it's weird he doesn't know.
This episode's going to be called Savini in the Sky with Diamonds.
Fuck, that's really good too.
That's really good.
It's good.
Oh, no. I know we're wrapping up, but Jamie, what was the thing you said before that I told you not to forget, and then we forgot?
Oh, God. We were talking about the violence in Terrifier and how it kind of unintentionally connects with the Millennial Nasty theme. And I was saying...
It does.
In a way, I was thinking about this while rewatching it. Art, in many ways, is a marriage of the slasher era and the Millennial Nasty era, because he's basically just a walking saw trap. He delivers the exact same level of torture and humiliation that you would see in a Saw movie or a Hostel movie, but it's being performed by an actual character.
I completely agree. I think especially the first Terrifier would have been really at home in like 2008. Can't you see that movie coming out in like 2008 with like Elijah Cuthbert and
absolutely.
I don't know. It's some other person. Like
Lele Sobieski is in a deleted scene.
Yes, exactly. I completely agree with you, Jamie.
I just really love that phrase, walking jigsaw trap.
Mm-hmm.
Which you could only maybe say about like the Collector if you're picking out villains.
Oh God, I love the Collector.
So good. Both of them. I love both the Collector movies, and I'm so mad we'll never get 3.
No, don't you say that. Don't you say that.
He'll collect again, Cody.
He's already got my heart.
Exactly. He's collected my love. We need to keep hope alive, I thought. So.
Hey, yeah.
Listen, I know all the reasons I'm supposed to give up hope on the Collected, and I refuse to, because if that movie ever happens, I want Marcus Dunstan to know I've been there. I was there. I've tweeted at him a lot, and he's probably blocked me.
If there's
He's
a Collector fan, I am one of them.
Folks, if you want to, we're going back to the ending now, just to confuse people.
This is a post-credit stinger.
Yeah, we normally have those worked in too somehow. It'll be really confusing because it'll be a prequel to the sequel to the prequel. It's about like part 4.5. Anyways, folks, if you want more of Box Office Pulp, you can find us at Box Office Pulp on most of your major socials. We're at boxofficepulp@gmail.com if you need to send us a letter or possibly a digital severed finger. And if you want to find our actual podcast instead of just yelling at us, you can find those wherever you listen to podcasts. Just look up Box Office Pulp. We're all over the place. We're on Spotify, which blows my mind. I didn't know that was allowed. I forget if Stitcher's still around, actually. I have a hard time keeping these things current. But you can find us on iTunes. Oh, no. I shouldn't have mentioned them. Or our Tumblr. Anyways,
Google
folks,
Podcast is down now. They're dropping like flies.
Just shout Box Office Pulp 3 times into the sky and we'll drop a podcast from a bird.
Oh, man. That'd be cool.
It's not bad. That's how we get most of our foot traffic through the Box Office Pulp office. Anyways,
just
folks,
saying it 3 times in a mirror. Just show
Mike
up.
shows up and he starts talking to you about Terrifier.
Just grabs your phone and makes you subscribe.
Jamie's there holding up a copy of Repo.
No.
Honestly, what is it, my birthday?
Anyways, folks, thank you so much for listening. Go buy those books, you cheapskates. I find that's the best way to get people to do things. If you insult them enough, they'll do it out of spite.
Yeah, good.
We'll see if that's a good method or not. Hopefully this doesn't actually hurt sales.
Just have the Jay Sherman buy my book clip loop for like a minute straight.
And like that, he's gone.
Going back to the book for a second, I laughed my ass off going through your Saw write-ups and seeing you finding a lot of constructive things to say about each of the sequels until Saw 7, which is my favorite running joke in horror. Literally, no one likes Saw 7.
Listen. Have you know those infomercials where people can't do anything? You know, they're like,
Oh, God, yes.
I can't take a paper towel off the thing, and they blow their kitchen up. That's Bobby Dagan trying to do anything in Saw 7. Such a fuck up.
There's got to be a better way to cherish your life.
Right. He fucks it up.
Okay, we need money to make this as an ad for a Saw movie. Dun, 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 dun. And there's just a guy who is holding too many things in his arms, and they're just going everywhere. Rusty knives falling down. Yeah.
That don't match the containers or whatnot.
Oh, no. Jigsaw really would put you through the ringer if you just live with that situation. I recently threw out all my Tupperware, and I'm like, I've learned a lesson, John Kramer. You've really helped me.
It's true. Like, sometimes you throw away, like, the shampoo bottle too early, and it's like, now you have a chance to cleanse yourself. And I hear Jigsaw in my head, like, telling me to recycle the bottles better or something.
Is that the mid-credit scene, Mike?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Cody's here with his clipboard. Okay, we're free now.
I just want to hear Jigsaw do like the entire Sham Wow commercial.
What about
the
Slap
Sham Wow?
Chop?
The slap chop. That's it, 100%.
You're gonna love my nuts.
Oh, no. No, John, no!
You'll be slapping your troubles away.
I call it my favorite creation, the magic bullet.
If the Billy puppet just wheeled itself out into the middle of an industrial warehouse and said, "You're gonna love my nuts," it wouldn't matter what the trap would be. I would be too busy laughing to understand that I need to remove all of my fingernails to find the secret code to unlock my head trap. I would just be dead.
Okay, where I thought you were going with that was Billy rolling into a studio audience, which all clap.
Right? And they're all clapping. Do you remember?
Are you ready to save money?
Save or die. Make your choice. Do you guys remember how the Sham Wow Guy also did the slap chop, but like if you ordered the slap chop, you also got like this cheese grater thing. And he was like grating cheese, like he was having a full-on mental breakdown in this commercial because he was grating cheese on pasta and he was like fettuccine, linguine, martini, bikini. And I was like, what are we talking about?
It was like an early meme. Like people just started repeating that.
Martini bikini became like a whole thing. And that is some deep internet lore.
I'm amazed they never made a movie out of like the infomercial wars with like Billy Mays versus the slap chop guy.
They had a reality show. That shit was intense.
The slap chop guy eventually, like, he was arrested, right?
Well, because he assaulted a sex worker, and so he became less fun to meme about.
Well, wasn't that a situation where, like, I remember it like being this weird thing where, like, it was some kind of entrapment scheme or something.
What? I don't remember that, but it's possible.
Is getting crazier.
I just remember it being a whole thing.
Billy Mays set it all up.
I think his son still posts on Twitter time to time about his dad, so maybe the whole story can be found through him.
Oh, God, help me. I'm actually looking this up. Okay.
Give us the deep lore, Mike.
His name is Vince Offer. That's incredible.
This is Art the Clown's secret origin.
His name is Offer.
Oh, my God. What if it is Art the Clown?
Offer and a 26-year-old sex worker were both arrested in Miami Beach, Florida, after a physical altercation. The police reports say the woman had bitten onto Offer's tongue and refused to let go, at which point Offer punched her in the face and left her with lacerations and fractures. Police
No. See, what you need to do in those situations, like getting bit by a turtle, you just put it in a bucket of water, and eventually they let go because they have to breathe.
When Offer later spoke of the arrest, he stated, "It probably saved my life." Think of that what you will.
Listen, I just feel like that cannot possibly be the whole story.
I know.
That's why I want the movie. There's so much happening.
But hold on, he has also a lawsuit section I was not aware of.
Oh, no.
In 2011, he was sued by his former personal assistant, Jennifer Kaczynski, who alleged that he stalked and emotionally abused her, forced her to be with him at all times, groped her, and offered her $20,000 for her to vacation with her family in exchange for her eggs.
Oh, my God.
That is not enough money. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Hard pass, yeah.
Oh, in 2000, he sued Anna Nicole Smith for $4 million.
In 2000?
claiming that Smith had agreed to be in his movie but backed out in 1996 over fears that appearing in the movie would be detrimental to her career.
He was a director? This is a fucking rabbit hole I didn't expect to go down tonight.
I feel like he should have maybe just stuck to Sham Wow.
Do you remember the There's Something About Mary lawsuit?
No.
That there was like a lawsuit claiming that Something About Mary like ripped off scenes from like this particular movie. I remember this,
that.
And it's this dude. The underground comedy movie was a subject of a lawsuit.
He did the underground comedy movie?
Yes, that was him. My mind is like melting right now.
I don't know what's happening, but I'm excited.
Fucking toll-free number royalty. He went from the underground comedy movie to being the slap chop guy. That movie had Michael Clark Duncan in it.
Well, Offer ended up having to pay $66,000 in attorney's fees.
Huh.
What a weird rabbit hole to fall down.
Martini bikini. Tell you what.
Makes it even weirder that he referenced the arrest in the later slap chop commercial.
Did he?
Yeah, no, I think it might not have been like the slap chopper Sham Wow. It might have been like a lesser item, but I do know there's footage of him doing the ads and being like, "Oh, I could have used this back when I had those legal troubles," or something like that. Just Charlie Sheening it.
Yikes. Just lean into it.
This here show is brought to you by Zencastr, the all-in-one solution for podcasting that's easy as logging in and hitting record. With Zencastr, you get studio-quality sound up to 4K video right from your browser. No more worrying about unstable connections thanks to Zencastr's multi-layered backups that ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality. But that's not all. Zencastr's post-production process makes you sound like a pro. It automatically removes those pesky ums and ahs and even those awkward pauses in conversation. If only it could remove those from my love life. But gone are the days of needing a bunch of different tools and services to create a podcast. Zencastr's complete platform lets you create, edit, and distribute your podcast all in one place, allowing you to easily publish to Spotify, Apple, and all other major destinations. So why wait? Start your podcasting journey with Zencastr today and experience the Zen of podcasting. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code BOXOFFICEPULP, and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story.